Ingrid, the poor orange seller, armed with a magical perfume passed down through generations, Mama Edna instructed Ingrid to use it only when she had been deeply wronged. This special perfume would ensure that any married man with ill intentions towards her would be forced to do whatever she demanded, empowering Ingrid to seek revenge on those who had harmed her and ensuring she would never feel vulnerable again. Once upon a time in Kingston, Jamaica, there lived a woman named Jane. Jane was a single mother who lived with her only daughter, Ingrid. Jane had spent her life working hard to support her family. When Jane had Ingrid as a teenager, she parted ways with Ingrid's father shortly after giving birth. Jane's mother, Mama Edna, took care of both her daughter and granddaughter during the early months, providing support until Jane was able to care for herself and the baby. After a few years, Jane left her mother's countryside home, seeking better opportunities in Kingston. She initially rented a modest apartment as a starting point but soon managed to secure a house in a more desirable neighborhood. Jane was filled with excitement about the new possibilities Kingston had to offer her and her daughter. She ran a modest fruit stand in the busy market district, selling fresh produce to the locals. Life was simple but fulfilling, as Jane was known for her kindness and dedication. Ingrid, her daughter, was a bright and hopeful young woman. She had dreams of making a better life for both herself and her mother. Ingrid often helped her mother at the fruit stand after school, and the two of them worked together, sharing a bond strengthened by the shared hardships and aspirations. Their tranquil life changed dramatically when a devastating hurricane struck Kingston. The storm ravaged their neighborhood, destroying homes, businesses, and everything in its path. Jane's fruit stand was no exception. The hurricane left their livelihood in ruins, and their savings, painstakingly saved over the years, were swept away by the floodwaters. Jane and Ingrid were left with nothing but the clothes on their backs. The once bustling market where Jane had made a living was now a scene of devastation. The community struggled to recover, and Jane and Ingrid found themselves among those in dire need of assistance. Jane's heart ached as she saw how the storm had displaced countless families, including their own. With the previous source of income gone, Jane and Ingrid faced the daunting task of starting over. Determined to rebuild their lives, Jane decided to venture into selling oranges. It was a modest business, but it was their only hope. Ingrid supported her mother's decision wholeheartedly and began selling oranges alongside her. Ingrid set up a small stall in the market, where she sold oranges with the same dedication and kindness her mother had shown in her fruit stand. The early days were challenging, as they struggled to attract customers in a market crowded with vendors and facing the lingering effects of the hurricane. Yet, their persistence began to pay off, and their small stall became a beacon of hope in the community. One day, while Ingrid was manning the stall, a man named Mitch approached. Mitch was a known figure in Kingston, a wealthy and influential businessman. Despite his charm, he had a reputation for being unscrupulous. As he interacted with Ingrid, he seemed interested in her not just for the oranges, but for other, less honorable reasons. Mitch was infamous for his numerous affairs and his tendency to lavish his wealth on younger women, with Ingrid being the latest young woman in his sights. Despite his attempts to woo her with expensive gifts, Ingrid consistently turned him down. Frustrated by her rejections, Mitch's patience began to wear thin. When Ingrid asked him how many oranges he wanted to buy, Mitch instructed her to bring a dozen to his home later that evening, as he was heading to his office and couldn't transport them himself. Ingrid agreed, and Mitch went on his way. Upon arriving at Mitch's house, Ingrid was confronted with an alarming situation. Mitch's true intentions became clear when he forced himself on her, claiming that payment would come only after he had his way. Ingrid was humiliated and traumatized by the experience. Mitch then tossed some money at her, which fell on the floor as she stumbled out of his home, feeling a deep sense of shame and betrayal. Distraught, Ingrid returned home to Jane, who was devastated by the news. Jane immediately reported the incident to the authorities, hoping for justice. However, when the police visited Mitch's home, His wife Sandra was there to greet them. Sandra, in an attempt to protect her husband, falsely claimed that Mitch could not have done what Ingrid described, as he had been with her all day. The police had no choice but to accept Sandra's account, and Mitch denied all allegations. The community, influenced by Sandra's lies and Mitch's wealth, began to shun Ingrid and her mother. The once supportive market customers avoided their stall, and they struggled to make ends meet. Jane and Ingrid felt the sting of betrayal and injustice as their reputation was tarnished. The situation grew worse as Mitch and Sandra used their influence to spread false rumors about Ingrid. Their lies led to a widespread ostracization, and Ingrid's small business, once a symbol of hope, became a target of scorn. The community's support dwindled, leaving Jane and Ingrid in a state of despair. Ingrid fell into a deep depression and became very withdrawn after the traumatic event. Her mother, Jane, tried hard to comfort her, but the taunts from the neighborhood girls and the daily sight of Mitch, her attacker, living nearby were too much for Ingrid. To find relief, Jane decided to visit her own mother in the countryside. She hoped that with her grandmother's help, they could take care of Ingrid for a while and find a new place to live away from their troubles. Mama Edna decided to visit the city to see the situation for herself. As she followed her daughter Jane back to their modest home, she immediately saw the despair on Ingrid's face. Infuriated by what her daughter and granddaughter had been enduring, Mama Edna, known for her no-nonsense attitude and intolerance for mistreatment, agreed to let Ingrid stay with her in the countryside for a while. Ingrid, though reluctant, hoped that the change in environment would bring some much-needed relief. When Ingrid arrived at Mama Edna's home, her grandmother encouraged her to make friends and engage with the local community, but Ingrid refused to go out or speak to anyone. One quiet night, as Mama Edna sat outside watching the night sky, Ingrid joined her. With the stars overhead, Ingrid finally opened up about her painful experiences, sharing the deep hurt she had endured. Mama Edna, known for her wisdom and compassion, listened carefully to Ingrid's story. Afterward, she offered Ingrid a special gift, a perfume with magical properties. Mama Edna explained that this perfume had the power to protect her from those with ill intentions and help her regain control over her life. Ingrid, curious about the perfume, asked her grandmother for more details. Mama Edna explained that the perfume had been in their family for a long time and was meant to be used only when someone had been deeply wronged. Ingrid listened with growing interest as Mama Edna assured her that the perfume would protect her and ensure she would never have to feel vulnerable again. It would protect Ingrid and give her the power to control those who had ill intentions, particularly married men who sought to exploit her. Mama Edna assured Ingrid that if married or single men with malicious intentions towards her buys her oranges, after she used her perfume before leaving the house, he would be compelled to fulfill Ingrid's demands. But if his intentions are pure, it will have no effect on him. On rare occasions the magic will work on a woman who has a truly evil heart, only then would the magic affect her. The promise of protection and justice gave Ingrid a renewed sense of purpose. With her grandmother's blessing, Ingrid prepared to return to Kingston, determined to reclaim her dignity and rebuild her life. Upon her return, Ingrid approached her task with a mixture of resolve and malice. Armed with the magical perfume and her unwavering resolve, she resumed selling oranges in the city. Her heart still bore the scars of her past, but she was now empowered by the promise of justice. One morning, as Ingrid set up her store, she saw Mitch approaching with his usual smirk, completely unaware of the change that had come over her. He strolled up confidently, expecting to charm her with his usual swagger. Ingrid greeted him with a calm, composed demeanor, her politeness starkly contrasted by a cold undertone. As she handed him the oranges, her demeanor was polite yet distant, reflecting the control and power she now held. Mitch, oblivious to the shift in power dynamics, remained relaxed, completely unaware of the depth of Ingrid's newfound strength and the implications it held for him. Mitch, eager to flaunt his wealth and assert his dominance, approached Ingrid's stall with a smirk. He scanned the colorful oranges and, with a showy flourish, announced that he wanted to buy the entire box. His intention was clear. He hoped this grand gesture would not only impress Ingrid but also set the stage for another encounter. As he inspected the fruit, he taunted her, saying with a hint of menace, "If you ever want to see me again, you know where to find me." Ingrid met his remarks with a calm, enigmatic smile. As she handed him the box of oranges, her voice remained cool and composed. "There's no need to pay," she said, her words wrapped in an air of indifference. Mitch, unaware of the significance behind her response, accepted the offer with a nod, thinking nothing of it. Little did he know, Ingrid's seemingly generous gesture was part of a carefully crafted plan, and his casual taunts were about to lead him into a web he hadn't anticipated. Mitch took the oranges home and, driven by an insatiable desire to please Ingrid, he ate several of them. The magical perfume's effects took hold, compelling him to do anything to make Ingrid happy. He soon showed up at Ingrid's home, when Jane was away. Mitch professed his love for Ingrid and expressed his willingness to fulfill any request she had. Ingrid, seizing the opportunity, demanded that Mitch leave his wife Sandra and divorce her immediately. Mitch complied, throwing Sandra out of their home and cutting off all ties with her. Sandra pleaded with him, but Mitch's decision was unwavering. He continued to obey Ingrid's commands, eventually giving her all of his wealth and properties. He even signed over the ownership of his house to Ingrid, leaving him destitute. Within a few months, Mitch's life spiraled downward. He found himself living on the streets, his once wealthy status now reduced to nothing. The effects of Ingrid's spell had left him a broken man, and he eventually succumbed to the harsh conditions of his new life. Before Mitch passed away, he confessed to anyone who would listen that he had wronged Ingrid. He admitted that after asking her to bring oranges to his house, he had forcibly taken advantage of her and then lied, claiming she was fabricating the story. His wife, focused on maintaining her luxurious lifestyle, helped him cover up the incident. She was aware of Mitch's history of exploiting young women with his wealth and influence. As Mitch neared the end, he expressed deep regret and sought forgiveness for his actions. However, his pleas were dismissed by others, who regarded him as delusional and no longer in his right mind after losing his fortune. Ingrid's scheme proved successful time and again. She continued to use her magical perfume, leading many other men with ill intentions to suffer similar fates. The wealth Ingrid accumulated allowed her to live a comfortable life, and she went on to build several successful businesses. She made sure her mother didn't have to work anymore and took excellent care of her. Despite all this, Ingrid kept the magical perfume her grandmother, Mama Edna, had given her a secret even from her mother Jane. Even with her newfound success and financial stability, Ingrid chose to continue selling oranges. Mama Edna, the keeper of the magical perfume, was fully aware of Ingrid's intentions but chose to remain silent. She allowed Ingrid to pursue her revenge, knowing that the law would not hold Mitch accountable for his wrongdoing against her beloved granddaughter. Mama Edna pondered silently, understanding that the effects of the magical perfume were reversible once Ingrid was ready to release her pain. She hoped that day would come soon. Although she never disclosed anything to her daughter Jane, Mama Edna waited patiently for Ingrid to visit her, prepared and willing to offer the magic when the time was right. Her mother, Jane, often asked Ingrid why she continued to sell oranges despite her financial success. Ingrid would laugh and explain that she enjoyed doing it to stay humble and remember where she began, a reason Jane accepted. Jane also occasionally inquired about Ingrid settling down, noting that she was now in her mid-20s and still single, without having introduced anyone new. Ingrid would respond that she would consider it when the time felt right, for now focusing on her businesses. Heartbroken by her past experiences, Ingrid wasn't ready to open her heart to love just yet. One day, while selling her oranges, Ingrid met Tyson, a businessman with a kind heart. Tyson's genuine affection and respect for Ingrid began to soften her bitterness. Their relationship blossomed, and Ingrid found herself contemplating a new future. Having found someone she truly loved and who treated her with the utmost respect, Ingrid decided she wanted to abandon the magical perfume and stop causing harm to innocent people. Overwhelmed by the secret she had been keeping for years, she broke down one day and confessed everything to Tyson. Although shocked, Tyson advised her to stop her actions, as they were inherently wrong. Ingrid agreed, promising to end her misuse of the perfume, but she needed to go to the country to properly dispose of it. Tyson supported her decision and promised to stand by her as long as she kept her promise. Ingrid visited Mama Edna and shared her desire to leave behind her vengeful ways. Mama Edna, understanding her granddaughter's change of heart, advised Ingrid to return the magical perfume and make amends with those she had wronged. Mama Edna assured Ingrid that this act of restitution would bring closure and allow her to move forward with her life. When Ingrid asked about the fate of the magical perfume, Mama Edna smiled and explained that it would be safely tucked away for future generations if needed. She revealed that their ancestors, powerful herbalists and magic practitioners, had infused their magic into the perfume over the centuries. This unique potion replenishes itself no matter how often it's used and can only be employed when someone has faced great injustice. The magic within would ensure justice for its owner. Ingrid smiled and thanked her grandmother. Ingrid took her grandmother's advice to heart. She embarked on a journey to track down those she had harmed and return their wealth, helping them rebuild their lives. It was a difficult but cathartic process, and Ingrid found solace in making amends. As Ingrid observed the families who had been affected by her past actions slowly reuniting over time, she felt a deep sense of relief. She had finally released her quest for vengeance and allowed the love she had found with Tyson to replace the bitterness she once harbored towards married men. Embracing her journey with a renewed heart, Ingrid welcomed this new chapter in her life with Tyson, ready to build a future grounded in love and forgiveness. A year after Ingrid gave up the magical perfume forever, she and Tyson were married in a grand ceremony, surrounded by loved ones. Her mother and grandmother were by her side, making her special day complete with the presence of the three most important people in her life. As both families celebrated their union, Ingrid took a moment to step away from the festivities and reflect on her journey. She realized that no matter how much hurt someone may cause, love has the power to heal and transform. The story of Ingrid underscores that trauma and betrayal can deeply affect one's actions and choices, leading to a spiral of revenge and harm. Despite her initial pain, Ingrid, with the aid of her grandmother, who should have guided her towards healing rather than revenge, ended up causing suffering not just to her offender but to others as well. This illustrates that those in positions of influence and wealth may exploit their power to oppress the vulnerable, rather than act with integrity. While revenge might offer temporary satisfaction or a sense of justice, it cannot erase the past and often results in a lifetime of hurt and pain, highlighting that true healing comes from confronting and addressing one's trauma rather than perpetuating cycles of harm. Do you think Ingrid's actions towards Mitch and his wife Sandra were justified? What about the other men that became collateral damage, as a result of the magic-infused oranges Ingrid sold them? I would love to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comment section. Remember to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.